This is a video that has been haunting me and many others lately. If you haven't heard of it already, this is supposedly the last words of a Chinese actor named Yu Menglong. It is absolutely horrific, what we just heard. This was the first video that was circulating online before the Chinese Communist Party started this mass censorship. Just a quick recap of what happened to this actor. As I mentioned, he is a Chinese actor, not necessarily one of the most famous names in China, I wouldn't say that, but he did have a really good reputation for being gentle and kind to everyone. About a month ago, he was found dead outside a friend's apartment, and since then, there has been countless rumors on how exactly he died, specifically how he was used as sort of like a slave, a toy for people with deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party, and how he was brutally treated before he died. I actually made another video explaining the incident in detail. But it has been a month, and between all the mass deleting by the Chinese Communist Party, they actually started a campaign just to contain this, like a nationwide campaign, just to contain the rumors around this incident. People are not letting go. It's been a month. You'd think that in this chaotic world that we're living in right now, people would move on, but no, they actually showed up more and more. Here is an LED screen in China, and people paid it out of pocket so that people would remember who he was and demand justice for this actor. So I think it's really fair to say that this has been a big public discussion and that it definitely hits a nerve. So I want to take a few minutes to discuss why this particular story shocked not only Chinese audiences, but also the international community, anyone who's been following or watching Chinese drama. The reason that news story resonated with so many people living in China is because at some point we've all been Yu Menglong. I mean, think about it. He is not someone with deep background with the Chinese Communist Party. He comes from a very humble family. He was at the bottom of the hierarchy. And everybody in China, at some point, as long as you participate in the real society, at some point in your life, you'll experience something just like he did. It's that feeling of being powerless in front of the powerful. The video that I played in the beginning, it really triggered some people. It probably triggered some people's memory of the brutal lockdown during the COVID time. And I think this demanding justice for Yulon is just a way of people saying, enough of this. Stop treating us like we're not human, because we are. There's an even more important reason behind this. The reason that people don't buy this Chinese official version of accidental fall from the building theories, because the government's credibility has been exhausted, especially, again, back to the COVID time. I don't know if you still remember the doctor named Li Wenliang. He's the first doctor in China to sound the alarm of this fatal virus. And he was quickly called in by the local police, and they're saying that he was spreading rumors. I mean, I know the deceiving, the brainwashing has always been there ever since the regime was established. But I think that got intensified for the past few years. I mean, I've watched one of my favorite journalists leave in China because how things have changed since Xi Jinping came into power. So I think what you see is the public is almost like overreacting because this is like the last straw for them. They just had enough. And honestly, I don't really know whether these rumors are true or false. There really is no way for us to find out at this point, thanks to the Chinese Communist Party. Some of them do sound a little far-fetched, I'll be honest. But I think when you are a seasoned China watcher, I think you've learned it the hard way that just because something sounds crazy doesn't mean that it's not true. There are so many conspiracy theories, the wildest kind, have turned out to be true when it comes to China. For example, someone said a top Chinese female athlete, internationally renowned, was forced into a decade-long affair by a vice premier 40 years older than her. Most people would have dismissed it or called you crazy, but it turned out that it's true. And she was disappeared for a while. For a long time, the whole world was asking the question, where is this person? Where is this athlete? Or another wilder allegations of forced organ harvesting in China. I mean, any sane person would have dismissed it because it just sounds so crazy. I mean, who would have believed that? But ironically, it turns out to be true. I mean, when you look into it, there are actually two Canadian investigators. One is a human rights lawyer, I believe. Another one is a former MP in Canada. So they both went to China and they did this research and they wrote a book on it. And their research results have been backed by the United Nations, human rights experts, and the China Tribunal. So it turned out those victims who came out and talked about the wildest story we had ever heard, it turned out they were telling the truth. So when I hear about all these, like, first accounts of people who have these crazy allegations around this whole Yu Menglong incident, I'm not that quick to dismiss them anymore, because it is a very scary regime that is capable of things that you and I probably can't imagine. But it's also not just the Chinese people, who've been living under terror and censorship. I think it's also the international community. So you see, over the years, the Chinese entertainment industry has gained some sort of traction internationally. There's a lot of interest, even on YouTube, in Chinese drama, especially those period historical kind of TV drama. I think a lot of people really, for one reason or another, really enjoyed watching this type of content. And the realization is hard to take in for someone who just watches the show and doesn't really know or frankly care much about this authoritarian regime. And I do want to make one thing clear. I am aware that the show business is kind of a show everywhere you go. Even in the West, it's really not an industry that has the best reputation, to put it lightly. But there is, again, something unique about the Chinese industry in comparison. In an authoritarian regime, everything is organized, because the entertainment industry here, it's not for entertainment. Every show that you watch here online, every single one of them, as long as it's made in China, it has been subject to censorship. It has been reviewed by Guangdian. I don't know the English word for it, but it's an organization, it's a bureaucracy within the Chinese Communist Party that they review everything before the public see it. So entertainment industry, I think the Chinese Communist Party and most authoritarian regimes really think of it as an extension of propaganda. So the messaging, the casting, the plots, they're all carefully crafted. So are the people in it. The people who are making them, they are also controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. So these kind of behaviors, the predatory behaviors, are all in a way organized. And I think what we've seen, since September, like since this happened, is that more and more evidence shows that it is an organized crime. It has been going on for a long time, and it has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. So there's always an overlap between, and systematic overlap, I should add, between the Chinese Communist Party and the entertainment industry. When you think about that, it's pretty scary, isn't it? When I first heard recording, when I heard him crying, so many faces were in my mind. I saw a lot of people who were being wronged by the system, but they're so powerless. They have to sometimes even beg for justice. It's about all of us still trapped inside a play we never agreed to act in.